Good morning. Welcome to Friday, January the 23rd, 2026. It's about 10:29 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I'm Yahweh Elohim, the God of the Bible. We're going to cover some topics that directly relate to getting the earth cleaned up. And essentially, the goal is once I get the earth toxicity, meaning the sin of the world, down to less hazardous levels, then I will be able to supernaturally introduce things to the earth sphere that not only every human being on earth will like, but it'll usher in the true new era. But first, we need to get things straightened out. For far too long, humanity has called good evil and evil good. And I, as your God, your creator, your maker, am here in the flesh to restore things, and that starts with getting it cleaned up. So, Asher and I we watch the HGTV channel quite a bit. And if you've ever seen the shows, they do a lot of renovation. So a good direct parallel to how I view things right now with the earth sphere is, coming in as God to the earth sphere, knowing and expecting it's going to be rough, right? So like the people on the show that renovate homes, they know when they're buying the home that it's going to be really rough. Sometimes it's worse, sometimes it's a little better. In this case, it's like the worst of the worst. And the first step, though, is the demolition process. And by demolition, I mean completely crashing through stigmas, dogmas, falsities, false realities, charlatans, religiosity, people that believe that their religiosity is what saves them. No, it is the actual hand of me Elohim that saves you. And then it is actually me Elohim that creates essentially your bridge from this world to mine. Heaven is my home. It is a physical place. And it is a place that humans have the opportunity to go to after their physical life here. And again, that does start at purpose and, kind of like a teacher to a student, right? If you stay on task and you're doing your purpose, the result is good grades, awards in school. You're going to have a successful, bright future virtually no matter what you do, as long as you're not a troublemaker, you're not a bad student, right? You're not absent, you're not getting into fights, you're not doing drugs, if you're staying away from all that. Generally speaking, you're going to have a pretty good life ahead of you. So that's how I as God feel. If you are obeying the Ten Commandments, and if you're reading Scripture, essentially using the Ten Commandments as your Rosetta Stone, if you're reading something that is somehow going against my commandment, then you as a human being have my permission to take a black Sharpie and you can cross that part of the Bible out, because that a lot of times is when a writer was speaking presumptuously, A, or B, it was formulated by governing parties of the day, ancient governing parties of the day. Not different than today's time, where every sect, right, they want to use whatever they can to benefit their cause, right? In this case, in the world, a lot of that's money, unfortunately, and money doesn't save you. Money doesn't really do anything. Usually, it overcomplicates things. But there is no real happiness to be found in money. But coming off of that, I got a 2-pager today, trying to get better at taking my notes so I can kind of keep the tracks, or the train on the tracks, if you will. It being Friday, a couple of general questions from humans of Earth that have been directed towards me and Asherah. One of those questions was, I won't mention names, but I'll kind of call them states. So the answer to Wisconsin was no, me and Asherah are not going to be having any more physical children. I have 2 earthborn sons who were heavenly created first, and then they came down. And then we have an adopted daughter who has medical needs. So I think we have a full plate as it is, and then I am looking forward to seeing our youngest, going to be moving on to the 4th grade and up and up. But that's going to free myself and her up to take even more on when it comes to the world stage, when it comes to, our actual job here in the earth. Now, she has a physical, human type job that she excels at, but equally, right, she's my consort, so I consult with her virtually about everything. And our favorite topic is the earth. No kidding. So, anyway, not gonna be having any more kids there, Wisconsin. And as far as the dinner thing goes, it's Friday night. My adopted daughter will be going to visit her grandparents. That's one of her favorite things to do, is go and visit her grandparents. So we, facilitate that as much as we can. We want her to remain close with, her side of the family. And, so big plans for me this weekend is getting the yard cleaned up. The winter, things don't grow much except for kind of the weeds. So, going to be taking care of the yard stuff this weekend. And on that note, there are no weeds in heaven. I was actually talking about this in the car with Asherah and the Jam. Anyway, so I'm not going to go down that road because I want to cover a lot today. But kind of what's been fun, I guess, the feedback is, so the dinner plans tonight are kind of up in the air. And then being short, a kid, we'll put it just the core. Me, Asherah, and the Jam. So, I don't know. We'll see. I've tried out a lot of restaurants, and to be honest, Outback has the best blooming onion, but other than that, their battered fried chicken is like paramount. The price was really hard to swallow. Like, what I think a meal should have been about $60 to $70 ended up being $110. So I don't know if we're going to go back to Outback. That was a few weeks ago. Olive Garden's got a solid setup, but we really wore out Olive Garden. So I don't know. I know there's this one that we've been really looking to try, but every time we went to go like eat there, it has been just like an hour plus wait. It's a Texas Roadhouse. Because Asherah is a big steak. She loves like nice juicy steaks. And so she wasn't really happy with the price of the steak in the Outback, and it was kind of small. So, we haven't been to Longhorn in a while. That might be a good spot tonight. I don't know yet. But maybe we'll check out the Texas Roadhouse this weekend. I don't know. If not, I've got plenty of food in the fridge that I could whip something up for us. But, so that's kind of the snapshot of the personal details. And, you know what, I'll start trying to write down, because as a viewer, by the way, you can, if you're in intercession or if you're in prayer with me in my spirit, you can ask questions. I have no problem answering them. And, I'm trying to think of some off the top of my head. I know there has been another question from Connecticut. Does myself, Asherah, or does anybody in the home struggle with sin? No. So that is something that we look at the equivalent to how a human would look at. I guess cholera has been dead for a while now, so that's probably not really useful to you as a viewer. Cholera was like a 1800s problem, big time, right? Where if you come in contact with someone who had cholera, you were kind of dead. Like, it was a death sentence, like polio. Point is, we avoid sin at that level. Like, we avoided like the plague, and it's never an issue. Like, we never have a problem with, any of the commandments, obviously. And as Asherah's husband, but as her Elohim, that kind of works in conjunction. That doesn't mean that just because we're husband and wife and I am still her god, but she's my goddess, we still have marital disagreements. That happens. So it is not just, peace, peace, peace. We do have generally model life, but there are disagreements, of course, right? There are different ways that she feels that, our son should do that. I think he should do this. But usually we come to the middle at the end of the day, no matter what. So yeah, so sin's never a part of that. We don't party, we don't drink, we don't do drugs, we don't really socialize. We keep very, very private for good reason. I don't like going out in public and then having, I get the Christian viewpoint, and again, it's funny, right? Because the Christians are half right and the Jews are half wrong, right? So it's kind of like this thing, because they still call me, for what it's worth, Jesus, and I don't like that name because it's built on falsity. Like, that's my big thing. But if the person that's coming to me in the grocery store or coming to me in, the arts and crafts store, I do like Hobby Lobby. Lots of Jesus there, but at the same time, it's a great store, right? It's a great store, and I have seen that culture shift, going to at least putting it as Elohim, as me, God, in that right. Because it would be how I look at it, right, is if I'm looking at my fence. I know my poor fence has been like completely used for so many parables now. But if I look at the fence, right, I can accurately call that a fence. But what is its origin? Before it's a fence, what is it? It's wood, right? So it actually comes from a tree. But I could not go to a tree and call that tree a fence, you see? That's how I view those things. So instead of having a very small understanding of me and saying, well, that's a fence, it may be made of wood, but it's still a fence. Technically, you're right. But for a purpose of teaching, understanding, and learning my nature and who I am, understand me as the tree. I am the provider of the fence. I am the substance of what the fence is made out of. Right? So I am Yahweh Elohim. I am the creator of heaven and earth. I am the maker of man in my image. I am he who the fallen angels got really, really pissed off at and decided to descend into the earth plane. So I'm saying, like, there has been tumult in the past and currently. And one of my and Asher's big goals right now is just to get the world to understand right and wrong, really. I feel like it's, in a way, teaching at a kindergarten level, like, we don't hit, we don't spit, we don't bite, we don't cuss, we don't break things, we don't take the finger paints and paint the wall, right? We don't abuse our teachers. We need to respect the proper authority figures while remaining sovereign. But the thing is, those commandments is also what keeps you sovereign, because you never want to be a slave to sin. If you are a slave to sin, then you are in trouble, right? And then you need deliverance. And thus, you call upon my name, Yahweh Elohim, Yahuwah. Yahuwah is my person, right? God incarnate, Yahuwah. God in spirit only, Yahweh. I am truly just me. Okay. And shout out to Violin Flow. This is the music that I selected for today. It looked pretty cool, but I try to stay with all music that has no copyright. So it does give me a limited selection, but this is a no copyright focus music for just chill vibes. So I thought it was cool and appropriate. Alright. Where we at? Okay. Let me do a quick check-in with the wife, queen, consort. She has another meeting starting up here soon. I was delayed on getting the video settled because I was sifting through music too long. So I'll take a quick 5 and then we will get into the daily topics. And we're back. Okay, so I had a little touch point with the wife. That's always good. We're going to jump into now our topics of the day. And I think the volume should be good. Okay. Alright, we'll start off with our new headliner, which is the 5-year-old boy whose parents were taken in by ICE. It's a tragedy. And as the theme of righteousness continues, it's paramount that we prevent such things from ever happening in the first place. Right? You probably heard the old saying, an ounce of prevention is worth more than a pound of cure. And that's true. And a big push to, again, clean house, right? the illegal situation is just that. It's an illegal thing. And why, right? This is the tragedies that happen from unchecked illegal immigration. Is guess what happens? Is it metastasizes and there begets more victims, is what I mean. So now the 5-year-old boy is a victim of his parents' bad choices. And we as the United States, me as Elohim of the United States, am never going to accept a wrong for what in a human mind is justifiable. That's not how this works, okay? Because again, his parents' bad choice has now disrupted this child's future. So he needs to go into, if he was born in America, then he's a natural citizen. So he goes into essentially an orphan home until he's adopted. He's a cute little bug, so I'm sure he would be adopted quickly. And then hopefully raised, in a righteous household, raised to be an American above all else, and, goes through schools and stuff like that. And, if he grows up and wants to know what's going on with his mom and his dad, then he needs to be explained the truth. And I do not like sugarcoating the truth, because that doesn't do any good. When you can explain something for what it truly is, then you're better off for it, right? It's no different than the tragedies of just crappy men and women who are having unmarital sex and they don't even desire children, but then she goes through with the pregnancy. At least that's the best part of that. I'm saying this scenario is all over the place. It's not just this 5-year-old boy that's suffering at the hands of his dumb parents who came here illegally, right? There's American citizens, again, that are having babies before marriage. The children are not in any shape or form being raised by righteous parents. The parents are selfish, they're children, they're childlike, they're drug addicts, they're alcoholics, they're party goers, that's what I mean. You know the type, right? They're tattooed up, they got piercings, they want to party, they want to go do all these unrighteous, sinful things. Those children grow up seeing that and modeling that behavior, and guess what? We're just talking about regrowing the same destructive crop, right? Instead of nurturing weeds like that is, we as a team, me as Elohim, the team being the righteous people of the earth in general, but going further down the line, right? That goes to my Christian church, my Jewish churches. At minimum, you both should be in agreement with righteousness. You both should be in agreement with the 10 Commandments. You both should be in agreement with at least me in these things, right? Your theology is so all over the place. There's virtually no way. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I've done the theology thing. I've done that for 3 years. I'm done with it. Hopefully you guys can iron it out and shake hands and either agree to disagree and still come to me as one people that want to do righteousness, obey the commandments, and you seek your afterlife with me, or at least in the kingdom. The kingdom is massive. The kingdom is far greater than just the earth size. I'm saying is massive. It's been literally being built out for 14.68 billion years. That's a long time to be working on something. And I am the prime creator, but then there are other creators that have never came to earth, and they've worked fully in the kingdom, expanding it. So anyway, I'm getting off track. My point is, the 5-year-old boy is going to go into an adoption. I as his Elohim will see about putting an angel somewhere in that situation to help guide. So she just started a meeting. Because here's the deal, guys, about illegal immigration. If you've ever been to a theme park, like Disney, Busch Gardens, Six Flags, Legoland, all these different theme parks. So if you've ever been to a theme park, you know that it can get crazy crowded. And especially in Florida, like we have a lot of theme parks in Orlando. I've taken the family to Disney a couple times. Not a huge Disney fan because the lines are just murder. They are crazy long. It's sweltering hot. I mean, it's common in Florida for people to pass out. Asher passed out in a line at Busch Gardens when she was a teenager. So, I mean, it's pretty brutal, right? So, how this relates to illegal immigration, it's more of a parable. And what I mean is, imagine you're waiting in line for this ride, and it already says, and this is common, right? It already says 90 minutes, but you really want to ride the ride, right? So you're waiting in line, you're standing there, you're enduring the heat, you're enduring the line, and then you see, a small little group of kids just, boom, they cut right in line. They cut right in line. And it actually infuriates those who have been standing in the line to then only have to wait even longer. So you'll actually see these things occur if you're aware enough. You'll see these people, right? They'll break into the front of the line, and next thing you know, the little sign that has like 90 minutes, now it went up. Now it went up. And a lot of times the park attendees, the staff, they don't engage these people because they don't want issues, right? They don't want to make a scene. So unfortunately, the righteous way is often avoided because they don't want the disruption. Because the good people standing in line are not going to sit there and make a huge fuss out of it. Unfortunately, they just sit there and endure it, right? They're like, great, well, guess we're going to be here for another 40 minutes, kids, because these people are cutting in line and there's no justice to be had, right? The kids that butt in line, cool, they got to ride the ride first. And you see what I mean? This is not like a one-off with these kids either. Or adults. Adults do it too. And 9 out of 10 times, if there is a disruption in theme parks where like security's involved, or finally like the last straw is made, somebody speaks up about it, right? 9 out of 10 times the disruption came from the same people who cut the line, which is kind of like breaking the law, right? If you're in a theme park, you're supposed to wait in line your turn, not cut anybody else, and things go smooth. But if they're cutting the line, more than likely they're breaking other park rules too. You see what I mean? It says no smoking, and yet they're smoking. It says do not sit on this part of the attraction, and they're the ones sitting on it, right? Don't sit on the gate. You get what I mean? If you were to put a GoPro camera on like Secret Squirrel and he's running around the theme park and he's monitoring these types of behaviors, what I mean is this is the exact same way how illegal immigration is, because we have a list of people who are in Argentina, who are in Mexico, who are in Europe, who are in Russia, who are in every corner of the world. There is at least one family on the United States immigration list that have been mailing paperwork back and forth. They've been waiting for background checks to come back. They've been waiting on coordination with purposes in the United States. There's a lot of folks that are migrating from India because they're super skilled in technology and coding and like just general technology, right? They're doing it the right way. It does. It's a bit of a pain in the butt, but that's for a reason, because if you're willing to work for it, that lets me as Elohim and my government know, hey, they're going to actually fulfill what they say. They're not going to just come over here and then hit some SNAP food benefits and think that they've hit the lottery because they're in the United States and that everything's for free, and then, you know what I mean? So when we have Democrats or left liberals, or really anybody, right, without the labels. See, I was just talking about labels. I'll do the same. Remove labels. Let's look at characteristic traits. If people are sanctioning these illegals breaking into our country, then they're the same ones that are willing to give American benefits to them. They're the same ones willing to fight American citizens on behalf of illegal citizens. They're all disruptive children. And none of them are looking out for the best interests of the great nation of the United States, nor are they adherent to the laws of the land, and they're blatantly ignoring me and God. That's a problem. Because the United States, as a Christian nation under God, that means that you can separate church and state all you want. That comes down to the pen and the paper. But make no mistake about it, America was founded by pilgrims because they wanted to come to America to freely and openly worship without harassment, without condemnation, and truly without the Catholic Church's involvement, which is why originally they went, right? Because, well, that's a whole different beast that I'm not getting into. So people that break the law, right, they don't care about others. As I said in several videos, the root of selfishness. They feel that they're more important, that they shouldn't wait in line in the heat. No, they think they're just, as God, I'm waiting in line. Happily. Not happily. Sometimes I'm like, I don't want to wait in line. But I mean, we just go and get lunch. But I'm saying, like, if I'm committing to riding that ride, I'm going to commit to doing it the right way. Never, ever would I cut somebody in line. That's not my nature. That's not our character. And that's not the nature or the character of a Christian or a Jew. And because Christians and Jews are the closest to me, because at least at the minimum, you share the same first 5 books of the Bible. That's important to me. Because that means that at least your foundation is solid, and that's all I need. I don't need someone to be a master in the Bible. I need someone to recognize that I, as Elohim, handed down commandments to establish civilization, and to be able to say, humans, you've got a problem with fallen angels and their seed on the earth. These people are going to find very creative ways to break the law, to do unsavory things, because it is their nature. These commandments are going to ensure that your path is away from them, and if your path ever crosses them, you use those commandments like a shield, and you use my name as the strap behind it, because that is what's going to ensure that no matter what you do, when you're putting on the full armor of Elohim every day, you're saying, I'm trusting in heaven, I'm trusting in the kingdom of God, because I know that no matter what happens, my pathway is straight. That's a promise. And my promises hold far more water, far more weight than any promises a man on earth or humankind ever could give you. So this goes again to illegal immigration. If they were willing to break one law, they skipped the line. They said, we don't care about those people in Bangladesh who've been waiting for 2 years to come to America legally. Nah, we're cool. We're better than them. We're going to break in. Guess what? They're not breaking in to build businesses. They're not breaking in to bring a purpose. They're breaking in because they want a freeload. Right? The same kids that broke into the line at Busch Gardens, they're sitting there on the rails, and, I mean, they're doing all kinds of unsavory things. You know, and we don't want those people in the park. We don't want the good people, right, that aren't speaking up to have to suffer because of the bad behavior of few. So, all right, next up, Mexico, Operation Cleanup. So President Claudia Sheinbaum, I like that you're not only willing but open and actively working with the United States Border Patrol and other agencies in the United States, because not only securing our shared border is a mutual interest, but the normal, hardworking people of Mexico deserve a nation of laws, safety, and prosperity, not drug lords. Because again, you guys are on the same continent as us, and you're our closest neighbor, you in Canada. So establishing good, positive relationships is not only paramount, but it is beneficial to both of us. And at the end of the day, guys, I know President Sheinbaum and all the good, righteous citizens of Mexico, nobody wants to have drug lords as their overlords. Guys, the days of the drug lord is over. The days of drug trafficking, of children trafficking are over. The days of illegal immigration, coming to America for free shit, is over. And at minimum, these hardline things, that's what I mean. As Elohim, when I see into the future, I can see humanity as I see my beehive. I know without a doubt that by July, I'm going to have 10 frames of honey, even though right now I only have 2. I know as long as nothing is upsetting the hive and the trajectory, I'm going to have 10 frames. I know that if we clean up America, kick out the illegals, I know that if we develop better relationships with Mexico, that the border problem is going to, again, to clear up, right? The murder in America is beginning to clear up. And now we need to start establishing what good living is, what righteous living is. And that starts at the micro level. What are you filling your head with entertainment-wise? Right? Are you watching sin on TV? Even though you say you're a righteous person, are you watching sin And then what happens to the human being is it actually begins to normalize it. And then at minimum, you're not even able to spot it because you've accumulated yourself to it. That's what I mean, is the toxicity of sin in the earth sphere, let's say, is a 10. But humans have developed kind of this thick shield, not that I gave you, but you've kind of created this immunity. But not that you're immune to sin, but because you have, like, you've accepted it, I guess, is what I'm saying, right? Or you've accepted it as the norm, and then, like, once something's established as normal, right, then we start building on those principles. And that's where the hard items need to be done, right? And that's, I'm going to take a pause off of this section because I do want to direct churches of whatever denomination. This is something you all can do, right? If you have after-school sports and it's being led by, you know, women's, whatever, men, women, whatever of the church, if you're seeing unrighteous behavior, you can pull these children aside and you can instruct them to do better and to have better behavior. If they continue, then you are welcome to instruct them on the consequences. So if they continue further, right, then you can introduce discipline. And this needs to be across the board. So every church, regardless of what your denomination is, right, if you're striving to enter my kingdom, know that righteousness is paramount. Knowing me, your Elohim, is paramount, right? Because imagine when you die, and the first question I ask you is, hello, what's my name? Do you know my name? Based on your answer is going to be based on your placement. If you're righteous, and it's like, okay, you lived a good life, but you didn't really know me. You didn't really know me. So then, you know, I'm going to give you according to your work. Not according to how many candles you lit at Mass. Not according to how, like, not according to how many, you know, Shabbats you did or didn't do, or if you accidentally ate a piece of bacon on a sandwich. Like I'm saying, none of that stuff plays into that. It's when I open up your path, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, you started here, we ended here. All these milestones that were laid out in your way, which ones did you hit? Which ones didn't you hit? Where did you step off the path that was given and tattle and sin? Where did you do these naughties kind of thing? Where did you contribute to my creation? Did you contribute positively or did you contribute negatively? And that's what looks so different between God and man, right? Because someone who's a millionaire or billionaire, they could be on their deathbed thinking that they did great because the world loves them and that they've made all this money and they've built this corporation. And then in my eyes, I'm looking at the sheet and I'm like, you've been so far off path, you've became a billionaire. That's not what I projected for you. That's not what I made you for. In fact, you just built this massive eyesore, this ugly empire that is just pumping out sin at an alarming rate, and now I'm frustrated because I got to figure out a way to destroy this abomination that's on my creation. And do you see how our perspectives are so different? Right? That's why doing your purpose and making sure that whatever you're doing, purpose or not purpose, from the time you wake up, go to sleep, as you're asleep, everything needs to be aligned with righteousness. It means the right way. And a lot of times you can't trust your heart and your mind because humans, again, as I've covered in different shows, movies, different things, right? The human syndrome, right, is the dog a lot of times is unable to cleanse themselves of the flea. The flea being your sin. The fleas are, you've been in places in the yard that you shouldn't have been. You've been doing things you shouldn't have been doing. And you need help from me to help clean those fleas and to get you on the right track. Right? So, illegal immigration is the same kind of concept too, right? Again, if we're starting a relationship off illegally, that's never going to work. Okay? Cohesion between things that are holy and righteous truly depend on righteousness. purity. Guys, purity is the key here. Every human being on earth, when you are free of sin, and you're like, okay, I've done a repentance, I've gotten on the right path, I'm not sinning at all. I mean, big or small, I'm not even telling a white lie, I'm not even thinking about another man or woman, I am constantly nose to the grindstone, I'm sticking to my purpose, my family, and my God. Right? Guess what? When there is something on your path that I'm like, I need you, I as Elohim will begin arranging things that you're going to intersect with. And I can count on you to make the right decisions and the right choices because you're using my commandments as kind of your guide, right? If you have questions about your guide or your pathway, then you can call on my name in prayer and expect an answer. If you're answering yourself, that can be an issue. So make sure you're listening to me, right? Which is also why the videos facilitate these things. So these things are all meant for humans in general to get in alignment. Because make no mistake about it, I don't want to lose not one human being to unrighteousness, to sin, I don't. It breaks my heart losing just one. But free will is very, very beneficial, but it's very, very dangerous to humanity. But it's the only way I would ever want life to exist on Earth is with free will. Now, the idea is, here's a good way to put it. Since Asherah is in the corporate world, we talk about this sometimes. It's like at her place of business. And I made a mistake. I actually said that she worked for a Fortune 100 company. I apparently don't know what the heck I'm talking about when it comes to that. She works with Fortune 100 companies. Her organization is still a very large, I think it's 10,000 plus employees. It's still really, really big, but I'm saying they're not a Fortune 100 yet. If they keep doing good to my Asherah, they will be. I digress. Point is, so whenever you have a corporate job, right, it's nice to be able to kind of make your own schedule, that you can what's called flex that time, right? But that's really emphasized when someone is responsible to do that, and that you're responsible to complete your work in a timely fashion, and that you're so far above the cut, they don't need to micromanage you. That is how I as Elohim feel about the earth when it comes to my humans. I want you so righteous that you operate so high above the 10 commandments that you're in a positive, you're fruiting. You're not only fruiting, you're getting others to fruit, right? If you're a teacher, a pastor, a preacher, you should be teaching righteousness through your acts, through what you're doing. And then you should be able to back it up with saying, hey, if we do things the right way, the fruit is going to be great. Sometimes it's delayed. I'm growing vegetables right now. I'm growing herbs. And I've got my lettuce. It's huge. My lettuce is enormous right now. My green beans are still a little small. But through constant good practices, keeping that bed clean, making sure I'm fertilizing it, protecting it from the cold when it freezes, all these good behaviors, I have not one doubt that my crop is going to come in heavy and huge. I'm not losing sleep over that. I want my humans not losing sleep over their entrance into heaven. I want them to be so interested in how they're going to spread righteousness on the earth. How are they going to teach their kids? They can't wait to, boom, get married. God's going to give me an angel. I can't wait to learn my angel's name, right? When a child is born, they should be excited to say, hey, I'm going to have a baby today. This is cool because not only I'm having a baby, but I know God's going to give me that baby an angel, right? That should be huge. And guys, these are real angels. These are real beings that have a mind. They have a mouth. They're not going to be audibly in the room hi, I'm Janice, your angel. Not that auditorially, but it will be known innately. You will know it innately, and sometimes you will see the angels. I have, in the physical, I have documented not only their existence, but I've also done this for in the future when science catches up to me, and then they want to start okay, we want to document like these spiritual things, but we want to categorize them as scientific truth, because it is. So I'm saying you can categorize angels. They're living, breathing entities, not breathing like humans, but they're light. They're light. And somebody may go, well, they're just so tiny. Imagine something. Movie theaters back in the day, these huge projection screens, they're like, what, 1,500 like inches or something? I don't know. I don't know exactly. Like 900 inches. But anyway, they're the big movie screen, right? Well, how is that giant movie screen able to be projected by something that's about that big? Right? Because it comes from light. That light is so strong, it's able to project upon this massive, like, 1,500 inch wall that serves as, like, the background. Angels work the same way. They've got depth of millennia. Some are thousands of years old, some are millions of years old. Usually the oldest ones are mainly with me, and then after they've done some earth work. See, that's what I mean. They have a reverse path than humans. So an angel, a lot of time when it's created in heaven, they're debriefed. They're given kind of future plans for the human family they're gonna watch out for. They come to Earth. They go through that human family kind of until the baton is passed off through a few generations. Then that angel returns home, and then the angel is essentially off to other purposes, right? To give them a flavor. So, moving on. Again, illegal immigration, just kind of re-highlight my note. It is not about the race, the religion, the creed. It is nothing like that. It has everything to do with we have laws for a reason, and we have parts of our society that are crumbling, and they shouldn't have ever started crumbling. And they're crumbling because we're allowing the line cutters, we're giving them mercy when we should be expelling them from the park. And you see what I mean? And, you know, the 5-year-old boy is just another casualty of bad decisions that parents have made. I need the world's parents to get it together, because I'm looking around society, it's getting better, but I'm still seeing grown-ups that are really just children. That's a problem. You can't have children parenting children. And, you know, Asherah and I were just talking about this on the porch before her workday started, and I was telling her, I was like, you know, because she was saying it kind of feels awkward that she has to, not awkward, but she's like, you know, as the mother, like the heavenly mother, she does have the elder spirit in the divine feminine, but she's like, you know, there's people that are in the flesh, right, her senior, but she is mentally, emotionally, spiritually millions of years older than them and millions of years wiser than them. So she still has to parent parents, right? So she does. Like, she's like basically a parent on every level. She's the heavenly mother. She's very maternal. And, I mean, of course, righteous. The coffee is good today. Okay. I'm at 43 minutes. I'm going to take a quick 5. And then we're going to come back. I still have, again, about a page and a half to go through. And some really important stuff. So just kind of give you a heads up. Coming up, I'm going to be hitting on the Board of Peace, Greenland again. Iran is going to be a big center topic. And then, of course, the ice storm. You guys are all going to be enduring that one here in America. So, that is also by these hands right here that are currently nice and warm in Florida. We're at 76 degrees today. I'll be back momentarily, folks. We are back. Alright, getting back to our list. Before I do that, actually, this brings to mind something that... This was a question out of Missouri. I'll refrain from name dropping, of course, because I want everyone to have their anonymity as they wish. And this is something that has been prayed about, and I have yet to address it. So I will address it today. Let me see first, though. That's kind of the same. Kind of the same. All right. We'll jump to this one. I just need something a little bit less speedy because I think I talk faster. Okay. So, a huge thing for me, Elohim, obviously, is abstaining from sex until marriage. Now, the prayer comes in where it's husband and wife, and they're wanting to know, well, is it okay to essentially, if you're not actively trying to have a baby, right, can you still have sex? Absolutely. Not only absolutely, highly encouraged. Folks, when you are married and you are singular wife, singular husband, joined in holy matrimony, when you are together as one, you are absolutely, obviously, to never look outside of your own spouse for any type of pleasure. Not even placebo pleasure. Absolutely forbidden. Don't do that. But when you are husband and wife and you choose to engage, absolutely. That is building bonds. That's building closeness. That's intimacy. Highly, highly regarded as sacred. That's what I mean. You take a sacred act of lovemaking because it stemmed from a commitment of love. That's the difference between sinful sex, which is you're chasing a feeling. You want to do something of a fleshly desire because of the physical attributes that come with it. That is reserved. That's what I mean. That is reserved for marriage. And guess what? In that process, you naturally have children. There is a difference when a child is created by a husband and a wife in holy matrimony who are in love with each other, and if they are truly righteous at their core, right? And they're engaging, I mean, to be quite honest, you can engage in married sex every day of your life, and you wouldn't be faulted for it. Not at all. Some people build better intimate relationships right through intimacy, and that's huge, and it's healthy because as a male you have a prostate. You need to make sure that prostate is released, which is also another thing. You don't want to be an old male. You don't want to be 30 before you're married, right? Because then you run into kind of health complications. These are natural guides that are given to the human body for a reason, right? So when you are in, elementary, middle, and high school, no sex, obviously, you courtship. So that means under the supervision of your parents, hopefully that are righteous, they're going to, take you guys out to dinner together with parent supervision. They're going to let you go to the fair with parent supervision. These things are called courtships. This also serves as a witness to your future spouse, if that's not the one, that you always could say, no, I am a virgin. I've only been in the presence of a female with my mom and my dad, or my grandmother and my grandpa, or whatever. And those people's righteousness should be looked up to like, I know so-and-so's parents. Like, yeah, no, they're definitely on it. That's comforting for your future spouse. Because, you do not want to bring in baggage, number one. Because imagine that, right? This is another mental part of society that's degraded. Because imagine if you spent your high school years, right, and you're just having premarital sex, you're doing this, you're doing that. Well, eventually, when you grow up and you're 25, 26, 27, and then you find the one, you have just inherited all the energy that you've ever touched, that you've ever engaged with. And then essentially, you're gonna struggle emotionally, mentally, and physically, right? Because again, that comes back to the old adage. Well, you obviously had no problem engaging in this behavior before me. What makes me think that you would abstain from that behavior after me? You see, these are questions that most married now, men and women, right, in the future, if they've had premarital sex that have, or if you have children from unlawful marriages or unlawful unions. In summary, didn't want to make this huge point, but I do want to emphasize that yes, if you're married, it is more than okay to engage in sex. How you go about that, I would just like to say keep it natural. So the introduction of things that are unnatural, I mean, I'm not going into people's bedrooms in the spirit to confirm or deny. I'm not going in your afterlife. Those are not things that I'm ever going to see. If again it was done that if you were engaging in sex without being married, those are things that I, as your Elohim, do see. But if you're engaged in holy matrimony, those are things I do not see. So what happens in the sheets happens in the sheets, and as long as the rules are applied, one man, one woman in marriage, you do not go outside of that marriage, you do not think about people outside of that marriage, and you don't pursue things, right? So, just to reemphasize that. Next up on our list, we have the Board of Peace. My stance on that is Russia needs a solid repentance and a restructuring before joining the Board of Peace, because it is not at all showing the world what happens to the bad guys by inviting them to the dinner table when they're actively engaged in murder, they're actively engaged in war crimes. You see, that doesn't fly. Now, there is a pathway that if all of that stops and, like, truly all this stuff stops, then we can, move forward. I gotta pause it. She is a little loud right now. I'll be back. Okay. So, Board of Peace. Russia needs a solid repentance and a restructuring before joining the board. It sends the wrong message to other parts of the world that you can be actively engaged in unjust type of war and still have a say-so in the Gaza plan. Because here's my... Russia needs to acknowledge it needs to stop the war machine, and it needs to commit to, like, indefinite peace. No more kinetic warfare needs to happen. And this is all up to President Putin, really. But I don't like that he's invited to the board, first. Second, I have questions / thoughts / concerns about the Gaza plan currently. My fear is that we still have quite a bit of a hotbed of Hamas thinking militants. See, we need a complete overhaul of the value system that is in Gaza, right? So if this is the plan, right? Because at this point, right, I'm never going to have a temple in Israel, so that's off the table. So at this point, I really don't care if we're doing a two-state solution, because Israel, if you truly wanted to have my temple in Israel, then the moment you went after Gaza after the October 7th, like, it would have been unequivocal, unquestionable what the goal was. That goal was either not thought of, achieved, whatever. All right. Okay, we're gonna just push on. Her meeting's loud. It's Friday. She does, I guess, like a team hoorah thing. So, all right. So here's my thoughts on Greenland. And, before I initiated this thing and obviously handed it over to PT to execute on, Greenland was like a toy in the basement with dust on it. Nobody cared. It was essentially ignored. And then it's only now that Denmark and company want to pull it out and play with it and say that it's important to them. So that's kind of where I'm coming from at this, is we identified a vulnerability in not only United States national security, but NATO security in general. So how this is such a, like, us against them situation is beyond me. But again, I lay the blame on who is influencing this type of behavior, right? Because every leader is having a following. And that's where we got to correct the thinking here. Like, this is not America versus Denmark or America versus NATO. Guys, we are NATO. There is no NATO without the United States of America. Or if it is, then it would be a very weak NATO, and then you guys would be frankly broke. So putting all this like attention on the U.S. land grab is the false narrative. The true narrative is seeing a security issue and then proactively saying, I think we have substance here for us to, the United States, to not only defend it on behalf of Greenlanders and on behalf of NATO because it's in our backyard, but to help fund the party. There are actual resources there that have been untouched because Denmark doesn't have the resources that we do to enable that. So how it in any way is a negative, I again have yet to see any logical reasoning that it is unjust. I don't see it as unjust. I see it, we're never going to take it militarily, so that's not going to happen. But I'm saying either Denmark could sell it to us, or we could annex the northern part of Greenland and make it for resource mining and United States military operations, joint with NATO, of course. But then we have 100% of the mining rights north of the town of Greenland, and then essentially the Greenlanders could receive a percentage of all the mining that happens there. So it obviously would help them financially, and that's what I mean. Oh, I remember now. I was in a previous video talking about how this actually was effective in the Caribbean. You have St. Thomas and St. Martin. So they share an island, right? One is ruled by, like, the French, and the other is ruled by, I don't know, another one. I don't know off the top of my head. But point is, right, that similar situation could be effective with Greenland. And the fact is, there's billions of dollars to be had in the resources there. So if Denmark wants to be a part of it, great. We can cut you a check for a percentage of the resources that we find there. Or if you don't, we purchase it from Denmark, and then we'll just give a royalty to the Greenlanders that live on site. Right? That's what I mean. You still get to keep your name, you keep your homes. Nothing virtually changes for Greenlanders at all, except for now you've got, like, partners. You've got America, NATO forces right there in, you know, north of your area, keeps you protected. So again, it's just kind of childish. This back and forth is childish, and that's what I mean. Is it's people that are so quick on the trigger to yell fire, fire, fire when there are real fires happening in the world. Why doesn't Europe get their panties in a twist over Russia? Like. And that's the thing. Unfortunately, so many of our partnering countries, they don't really make good decisions. They really make decisions from a prone on-the-ground position or a position of weakness. And that's a problem because we have aggressors like Russia. That's what I mean. Now, how is one of our number one aggressors, Russia, coming to the board of peace? That needs to be rethought. So T-Rex, PT, AC, whatever acronym we're going with today, correct that. Next. Okay. Sorry. Huge distraction. So Iran, serious note here. The IRGC and Ali Khamenei, this is my last plea to exile yourselves. Now, step down from your stolen throne. There's nothing for you after this life, worshiping false gods yourselves, and like this, it's a dead-end road. And if you do choose me as your Elohim, as your God, then the terrorism stops, and you should still be exiled to essentially repent and work out your accumulated sin and penances, and then you will have an opportunity to have an afterlife in the true kingdom of heaven. So, militants of Iran, the current regime, right? You are religious fanatics, you're heretics, and you are deadly to the world because your idealizations are false and they're wrong. I am the one true God of the Bible. And again, your causes are all faulty. And they result in murder. There's never going to be a religion on this creation going forward that is going to be about murder. Again, even if someone says, I don't want you as my Elohim, that's fine. You have free will. You're more than welcome to be any religion as long as it's peaceful. Even Muslims are welcome to practice religion so long as you're not a jihadist Muslim. Truly. That's where I draw the line, right? When you are drawing blood on behalf of your fake god, demon god, or your rules or your book, your Quran, I don't care. The line is drawn, right? Buddhists aren't out killing people. Christians ain't out killing people. Jews ain't out killing people, right? The Asian cultures, I'm saying, like, there are many different religions in the world, have been since the dawn of time, and they all stemmed from, at one time, a governing deity. So people have this huge obsession with Messiah, Messiah, Messiah. Well, back in the ancient times, right, pre-flood and shortly after, there were deities that were in certain locations on the earth, and they were to be coming to me saying, okay, Yahweh, this is what my area needs. Can you kind of transfer that power, and then I'll do it on behalf of my people, and thus gaining the respect of their people, being, cohesive. And again, that went sour. Why? Because those deities that are no longer deities, or they're no longer alive, or whatever have you, they stopped at righteousness. They stopped doing the good will of me, Yahweh. Instead, they wanted to do their own will, which resulted in murder, death, enslavement, virgin sacrifices, and it was bad. Very, very bad. Very bad. So again, to the resistance, stay away from major regime centers, spread the word on the ground, gather food, water, blankets, and prepare. Do not know when things are going to change for you. I know you don't. I'm just telling you, prepare. Make sure you have enough food and water. Make sure you have plan B, plan C for places to, stay outside of city centers, mainly outside of like Tehran. You want to get away from places that are strongholds of IRGCs and where Ali Khamenei could or could not be. So, and then ICE. I, as Elohim, have brought the ICE to the United States so ICE can fulfill their purposes in peace, and hopefully the rioters will kind of be iced out from protesting and stuff for a little while. And then, good folks, stay indoors, enjoy family time, read the scriptures, do what I said about the workbook, take the 10 Commandments, take the first 5 books of the Bible, and then you can use that to scrub it against the rest of your Bible. And then you'll be able to paint an accurate picture of who I, as your Elohim, is and am. And that should build confidence. So, alright, with that, I'm not going to be fighting over her meeting much longer because it's driving me crazy. So I hope everybody has a good weekend. Be safe, be warm. Again, if you're evil, if you're wicked, if you're unrighteous, if you're stubborn, arrogant against me as your Elohim, then you're going to remain on the Reaper's list. And again, they will be out. And when I say that, this is spirits. These spirits are under my control, and they are going to be cleaning up my creation 24/7, 7 days a week. So, all right. Good luck. Have a good day. And we will chat with you tentatively Monday.